Today we're going to talk about how Trump's new ballroom and the prospect of a third term are connected. And I interview Jamie Raskin, Jared Moskowitz, and Tommy Vitor. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're watching No Lie. So I'm sure you've heard the latest threat levied by Steve Bannon.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28. Trump is going to be president in 28. And people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is. But there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way we finish it through Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will. And you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
And we've heard different iterations of this before, specifically from Steve Bannon, but frankly, Trump too. I mean, he's literally handing out hats that say Trump 2028. He's posting videos of himself as a king. And most notably, when you see him erect a $350 million and counting ballroom that'll take years to build, knowing who Trump is, knowing that he's not benevolent, knowing that he's not just trying to make it better for the next guy, it's clear that this is not the behavior of someone who views his time in office as being over in 2028. And look, I know that me saying this might feel like I'm just, inducing anxiety for no reason, but I actually think that we all stand to benefit by being very clear-eyed about the threats that we're facing right now. We gain nothing by burying our heads in the sand and relying on the goodwill of Republicans to do what's right come time for the next election. I don't think I have to remind anybody what the last time we relied on Republicans to do what's right ushered in when they got the election results that they didn't like. Trump incited an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. I mean, hell, just months ago, Republican Jefferson Griffin tried to disqualify 60,000 ballots in the North Carolina Supreme Court race because he lost and wasn't satisfied with those results. And literally right now, Mike Johnson is refusing to seat Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva despite her race being certified a month ago. These people are not only not good governing partners in democracy, they don't believe in democracy at all. So frankly, we only hurt ourselves by pretending that there's not a problem or by pretending that it's not inevitable that Trump and Republicans will not just start, but continue to rig, undermine, or straight up deny elections as we head into 2026 and 2028. So what can and should we do? There's actually quite a lot. First, we need to win the New Jersey and Virginia races, we need to win the Pennsylvania Supreme Court race, and we need to win every other race happening on November 4th of this year, just a couple of weeks from now. Momentum is everything in politics, and having that momentum heading into 2026 is going to show a very disenchanted electorate that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that we can actually win. Second, we need to win Prop 50 in California, and we need to win it by a lot. Because that'll not only usher in new maps in California and keep us competitive in the House races, but it'll give a desperately needed shot of adrenaline to every other Democratic governor, all of whom so far have done nothing. Because we can hope and plead for goodwill governance until we're blue in the face, but the reality of the situation is that maps are being redrawn. So we can either lose, we can either pretend that we're not going to participate, or we can fight fire with fire and, again, preserve the ability for Democrats to stay competitive. Unfortunately, those are the only two options. And also, unfortunately, Democrats are just not moving fast enough. But seeing Prop 50 pass, not 51 to 49, but by 2/3 or more, would give political cover to those governors and state legislators across the country who are not predisposed to this kind of fighting, but who need the assurance that this is not just the moral right thing to do, it is the electoral right thing to do. Third, we need to match the Republicans' tactics. So if they're going to deploy poll monitors or poll watchers, which is the latest news ahead of next week's elections at the hands of the DOJ, we need to do the same. We cannot always just be on the defensive. If the DOJ deploys people, Phil Murphy in New Jersey needs to send in the National Guard to watch the polls themselves, to watch the poll watchers. Democratic groups need to do the same. We cannot cede this ground to Republicans who take offensive positions every single time. Again, we need to fight fire with fire, and we have to do it at every front. 4, we need to be comfortable mobilizing and mobilizing often. The first No Kings had 5 million people. The second had 7 million people. If you think that has no impact on the broader electorate, if you think that Trump's enablers don't see that and think twice about being so blindly deferential to him, if you think Trump himself doesn't see that and take into account what a mass uprising against him means, then you're not paying attention. Trump's power is derived from the optics of total control. He knows that. That is why he's so desperate to quash dissent. And finally, we need to start working on our circles of people. Find the people in your life who don't pay attention to politics. It's time to pay attention. I don't say this as an alarmist. I say this as a realist. We are not heading toward fascism. We're in it. But we can get out. What it requires, though, is mobilizing the biggest bloc in this country. And I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm not talking about Republicans. I'm not talking about independents. I'm talking about non-voters. And look, I get that not paying attention to politics might feel nice. Trust me, my mental health is a testament to that. But now is the time to tune in. Too much is at stake not to. And just about all of that, all of those examples I gave include stuff that we all have agency in. And it starts next week. So if there's an election coming up in your state, make sure that you participate. You've heard, the saying, it's always darkest before the dawn. It's up to us to manifest that into reality. Next up are my interviews with Jamie Raskin, Jared Moskowitz, and Tommy Vitor. No Lie is brought to you by Shopify. So when I started this podcast, it seemed like I kind of had to figure everything out on my own. I had to figure out scripts and setups and filming, logos, all of which was very overwhelming. And every single day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an immediate answer. Finding the right tool to help not only you, but simplifies everything is such a game changer. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce platforms in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started, including my own website, BrianTylerCohen.com. For you, you can get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style. It can accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. You can get the word out like you have a full marketing team behind you. You can easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and everything in between. If you're ready to sell, you are ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/BTC. Go to shopify.com/BTC. Shopify.com/BTC. No Lie is brought to you by Prize Picks. So you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. So I am an avid NFL fan. I watch football every Sunday. It is the one respite that I have from politics. And part of what makes it so much fun is being able to gamify the whole experience. So I love watching the people that I have on my fantasy team: Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Daniel Jones, who kind of breaks my heart because he used to be a Giant, that notwithstanding. Now there are ways where I can actually make money as the result of the players that I love watching anyway. So Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you can cash in. Play Prize Picks to get action on football in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So you want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. Also, you can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, and there are plenty of those people. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. On Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if only one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for Power Play. So no matter how you play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Prize Picks also offers injury reboots. So if one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count that as a loss. And this season, that seems to be especially helpful. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off, which ones are overhyped. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your hot takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code BTC to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code BTC to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. No Lie is brought to you by Uplift Desk. Now, I know that I deal with the same issue as everybody else, which is I spend most of the day completely static, sitting down in my desk. It affects my posture, it affects my mood, the whole thing, which is why Uplift Desk has become so helpful for me. The new Uplift V3 standing desk transforms your desk into a productivity engine. Why sit still when you can stand out? The new Uplift V3 standing desk helps you move more and get more done. It has unmatched stability, it has fast assembly, industry-leading cable management, which is especially important with all those cables sprawled everywhere. It has a smarter, more integrated design, and it has the ultimate customization. So if you want more real estate on your desk, you can get it. That's what I love about my Uplift desk, for example. I need as much real estate as possible because it always so happens that I have papers to the ends of the earth sprawled across my desk, so the more real estate that I can have, the better. So transform your workspace and unlock your full potential with the all-new Uplift V3 standing desk. Go to upliftdesk.com/BTC and use our code BTC to get 4 free accessories, free same-day shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty that covers your entire desk, plus an extra discount off your entire order. That's upliftdesk.com/BTC for this exclusive offer. It's only available through our link. I'm joined now by Congressman Jamie Raskin. Congressman, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
So we have watched as Donald Trump engaged in this almost comical corruption scheme where he is seeking almost $250 million from the DOJ to pay himself, basically using the U.S. Treasury as his own piggy bank. You've now led the effort to take action against him. Can you explain what the new move is?
Well, the mind-blowing thing about this one is that it could almost all happen in secret. In fact, we only know about it because somebody leaked out that he'd filed this administrative claim asking for $230 million from the U.S. government because he felt he was injured under the Federal Tort Claims Act. That's usually for deaths, violent injuries. I found one with a baby who was born with brain damage because of malpractice in a military hospital, a federal hospital. And that one was extraordinary, and that was only for like $10 million. And he's asking for $230 million for things that are not even torts, not even civil wrongs committed against him. He's asking for that money because he didn't like the fact that there was a judicial search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago. I'm sorry, but that happens hundreds of thousands of times a year. And everybody who is the subject of a judicial search warrant, and remember, you have to go to a judge and prove that there's probable cause that a crime is taking place or a crime has taken place. And then, of course, it produced all this documentation, all these photographs of classified documents in his bathroom and in the pool table and all that. But in any event, he thinks he should get $230 million for that. Included in his stupid complaint is a request for $75 million for punitive damages, which are not even allowed under the Federal Tort Claims Act, even when you've got a real tort like somebody, being killed by a federal doctor or run over by a federal truck or something like that.
Yeah. So now, in terms of what can be done, I mean, what is the new action being taken in Congress to kind of expose this?
So here's the thing. This is not a lawsuit. The public is not represented. There's no court. There's no trial. There's no jury. There's no judge. All he's doing is asking for 2 officials in the Department of Justice, one of 2 officials, to approve his petition for $230 million. And one of them is his own deputy attorney general.
Yeah.
Who got famous for going out and talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, right? And effectuating her transfer to a camp, extremely minimum security facility in Texas, when he was satisfied with the things that she was saying and not saying about Donald Trump and the Jeffrey Epstein affair. So these are his sycophantic underlings who are going to be deciding whether he gets $230 million. So what I'm focused on right now is that all of this could be happening in secret. It's all behind the scenes in the back rooms. And for all we know, Brian, it's already happened. right? Because they don't have to report it to anybody until the end of the year when a list of the Department of Justice's expenditures are made. Understand, generally, this is phenomenally difficult to win a suit, even when there's a real violent tort. I mean, think about all the people who are being roughed up and manhandled by ICE in these raids across the country. If these people have any way of getting any compensation for being falsely imprisoned for 5 days or being roughed up and thrown on the ground, it's through the Federal Tort Claims Act. And they never settle it out, right? And it's extremely difficult to win even in court because there's so many legal doctrines that you got to jump over before you can actually get a real hearing on it.
So you're launching an investigation, a public investigation into all of this. But I guess the broader question here, and the question I'm sure most people who are watching are asking, is can anything be done to stop this? I mean, if Donald Trump just has carte blanche, if his only obstacle to being able to pull $250 million is his own criminal defense attorney and his own attorney general, who are perfectly content to be doormats for the guy, then what's to stop him? And by the way, what's to stop him from doing it again or doing it for $500 million? Why not take $1 billion? Why not take $5 billion if there's really no obstacle?
Yeah.
Right.
And then this number happens to match exactly what he's seems to have been committed in the White House demolition of the East Wing and the construction of his new Marie Antoinette la-di-da ballroom for the CEOs and the billionaires. So it may be that, there will undoubtedly be major cost overruns with that project. Maybe he's just looking to take that money and put it over there. God knows he doesn't want to reach into his own pocket, even though those pockets have been filled with more than $3 billion in crypto money since the beginning of the year. But look, what can be done? Like everything else during this nightmarish Trump period, it's a case of first impression, by which I mean it's never happened before. So we don't have a mechanism necessarily to stop this, which is why the first thing I want to do is to let the sunlight pour in so everybody can see exactly what's going on, because they're definitely trying to finagle this behind closed doors. And I don't know who leaked it out and who made it available, but whoever is out there, I hope and I trust, is trying to make known everything that's going on with respect to this. But we have demanded, and I've sent a letter demanding from the Department of Justice all documentation, all correspondence, all conversations that have taken place between the White House and the president and the Department of Justice about this matter. And obviously, once Congress is put back in the hands of rational people, we've got to make it impossible for this ever to happen again by saying that if a president of the United States, if government officials have a federal tort claims action against the government, it's something that must go to court. So we actually have plaintiff, defendant, the offering of evidence, a neutral, impartial magistrate, and not the president's own employees making a decision about whether or not to give him $230 million or $2.3 billion or whatever he might ask for.
Is there any discomfort from your Republican colleagues about this, or do they really want to be on record supporting the president of the United States, who may at some point be a Democrat in the future, being able to just use the U.S. Treasury as his or her own personal bank account? Like, their silence here right now is going to establish that precedent, whether they just think that any president of any party is allowed to just pilfer money from the Treasury.
I mean, it's a great question. Of course, our Republican colleagues would have to be coming to work in order for us to answer that. None of them have been around for this, and they've not uttered a peep. And when, Mike Johnson has been at a press conference, he continues to feign ignorance about the whole thing and say, oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, can you imagine if Joe Biden or Barack Obama had actually said, I'm going to shake down the federal government for $230 million and I'm going to have my attorney general's people decide on it. Oh, and by the way, they happen to be my private lawyers, the way Todd Blanche worked for him before. I mean, it's just astounding. It's astonishing. So when you say, well, aren't they afraid that, turnabout is fair play and a Democratic president's going to do that in the future? The reality is, when they really think about it, they know that we're not going to nominate somebody who's going to come in like this compulsive kleptocrat and just start pilfering the government. And by the way, violating the Constitution too, because this violates the Domestic Emoluments Clause, which
Right.
says that the president is confined to his salary in office, which cannot be increased by $1 from a federal source. And it can't be reduced either. And they're just trampling that. So I think they think, well, the Democrats play by the rules, but we don't play by the rules. And we're going to support our dictator to take it as far as he can go.
Right. The reality is that that's the perfect point because they don't have to worry about, the whole adage of what goes around comes around because they know that Democrats are not going to nominate or elect somebody who would do this in the first place. And so they're covered in that respect. But you touched on the part.
And also, if they throw caution to the winds and they allow Trump everything he wants, they think the Democrats will never get back in.
Right.
They will
Right.
gerrymander themselves into power. They will cement themselves into power with Citizens United and all the corporate dark money. And, it'll be like the Hunger Games where, the capital city will be this embedded financial military fortress against the peasants.
Yeah. I did want to ask about something that you touched on, which is the fact that this is blatantly unconstitutional. I have Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 in front of me that says the president shall receive receive compensation for his services, but that he shall not receive within that pay period any other emolument from the United States. And so this is clearly blatantly unconstitutional. I understand that the Constitution itself is not self-executing, but what is the recourse here? What's the remedy when you have such a blatant violation of the Constitution, such a blatant violation of the Emoluments Clause? Who has standing to bring this into court and to push back against this?
Well, two different questions. One, who has standing? Well, the Roberts Court would pretty much say, no, nobody's got standing to challenge Donald Trump over anything, right?
Right.
So that's a serious problem. On the other hand, if we can take the Congress back, we can use the power of the purse in order to cut off equivalent amounts of money to the Department of Justice, demand restitution. We can impose all kinds of penalties and fines for them doing this, and we can make sure we get the people's money back. It's just a lawless situation. And by the way, we got to compare and contrast the domestic and the foreign emoluments clauses, right? The foreign emoluments clause says that a president or nobody in federal office shall receive a present, an emolument, which means a payment, an office, or a title of any kind, whatever, from a king, a prince, or a foreign state without the consent of Congress. Okay, so there's the loophole that Congress could say, you know what, we approve your $400 million jet you're bringing back from Qatar. We will vote for that, okay, which we never would vote for. Even the Republicans, I think, would be hard-pressed to cast that vote. But Trump hasn't come to us, all right? But now compare that to the Domestic Emoluments Clause. There's no saving clause which says it's all right if Congress votes for it. It just says categorically, as you quoted it, Brian, that the president can receive no other emoluments from the federal government or from a state. You can't use your presidential office to rip off the taxpayers.
So can you just explain a little bit about why it's allowed to happen if it is blatantly unconstitutional, and what happens in the event that not just the Emoluments Clause is violated, but any clause of the Constitution is violated? What remedy is there if somebody violates the Constitution and, we're in a situation like we're in right now?
The Trump period is showing that we have the Constitution that we're willing to fight for. If you're not willing to fight for the Foreign Emoluments Clause and say the president must bring his $400 million theocrat Qatari jet to us for approval, he's just going to go ahead and do it.
Right.
If we don't somehow insist as a self-respecting Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, that the president not be looting the public treasury for hundreds of millions of dollars simply by telling his own underling to write him the check, well, then he's going to get away with that violation of the Domestic Emoluments Clause. It's like what the whole country is agape, just astounded to watch this week, which is the bulldozing the White House. Like, how can this happen?
Yeah.
And if we don't have control of Congress and we can't stop him, and we've never, there is a criminal statute called destruction of government property. And that's the closest that I can find to saying he's destroying government property outside of the law, and he has no permission or authorization for it. But that would require the Department of Justice to bring a prosecution to go and try and stop it. And what are the chances of Pam Bondi doing that? Not great. Not great.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this to the forefront and for fighting for this. And I hope that the point is made to your Republican colleagues that, again, what goes around comes around. There will be a point when Democrats are back in office, despite Trump and Republicans' best efforts to entrench permanent rule for themselves. And if they really want to establish the precedent that any president of any party can just decide how big of a check he or she wants to write himself or herself, then that's what they're doing right now by virtue of having failing to have enough of a spine to actually speak up. So again, appreciate your work on this issue. Congressman, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Hang tough.
I'm joined now by Congressman Jared Moskowitz. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for being with you, Brian.
So we have some breaking news here as it relates to the Epstein files. I'm going to throw to a clip from your buddy James Comer.
Let's be clear. Democrats don't care about transparency or accountability in this matter. The evidence we've gathered does not implicate President Trump in any way. Public reporting, survivor testimony, and official documents show that Bill Clinton had far closer ties to Epstein.
All right, so that was James Comer saying that nothing to see here as far as it relates to Donald Trump, that the real issue here is Bill Clinton. So first and foremost, can I have your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, it's good to see confirmation of something I always knew about my friend James Comer, is that he can read at a ninth grade level. But I mean, here we go again. Comer coming out saying, I conducted an investigation, right? This was the guy who was taking, Russian disinformation and was using a Chinese spy during the fake faux Biden impeachment, which was so successful by Comer, right? So yeah, Comer's looked at it. By America, really? Here we go. Everyone can sleep. Everyone can sleep at night. James Comer has looked at the Epstein files and he's concluded there's no there. Well, then guess what? If there's no there, guess what we can do, Brian? We can release it. We can release the files, James. Man, I love when you do these things to yourself. It's such first of all, I miss him. I haven't seen him in weeks. And so, yeah, look, if Trump is not in it and it's just Bill Clinton, then release him.
Right? Isn't that even more incentive? I mean, if it's Bill Clinton, look, I certainly have no allegiance to Bill Clinton. I'm not here to run cover for Bill Clinton.
So wait a second. All House Republicans and all Senate Republicans, the White House, President Trump, right-wing media are now just protecting Bill Clinton?
Yeah. Well, can I have your reaction to the fact that we are now in nearing week 4 of this shutdown, and that Mike Johnson has put forward a myriad of different excuses as to why he won't swear in Adelita Grijalva.
They keep changing.
Right. I mean, first it was this idea that it was the Pelosi precedent. Then it was this idea that he's looking forward to doing it. He just has to wait for the House to come in session. We can't do it in pro forma sessions, except for the fact that we already literally did it in pro forma sessions. So what do you make of the fact that Mike Johnson seems to be drowning in his own pond of different excuses here?
Well, by the way, you forget the first one he said, which is, we'll swear her in when she wants to. Right, okay, that was his first thing. And then she's like, I'm ready to be sworn in. And then he was like, wait, well, yeah. And then he was like, well, there's this pro forma thing. We can't do it. And then Democrats are like, well, you just swore in 2 Republicans during pro forma. And he's like, the Pelosi president. They didn't swear in a rep from Louisiana for 23 days. Okay, well, we're there, Mike. Right. And now there's this other thing. Well, we'll get to it, when we're back. Everyone knows the reason they're not bringing us back, okay, is because they're trying to avoid this Epstein vote. And they're trying to get Republicans to take their names off of that list, okay, off the petition that will force the vote. Again, you have to ask yourselves, why are they going through all of this, okay? All of this for months now. Okay, using political capital, significant political capital, just to stop a House vote. By the way, just because the House votes on it doesn't mean the files get released. You still need the Senate to do it.
Right.
And yet they're putting all this political capital to stop it. I don't know. It's funny. Like, Speaker Johnson's like the Speaker of the House, but we don't have a House. Like, we don't have it. We're not even allowed to come back. okay, which is elongating the shutdown, by the way. Usually in a shutdown, you force members to stay, which forces members to talk. I know that's bad, and make a deal. But now, no, they've sent us home. We're home with our families and kids, which I appreciate. But now, as a result, there's no pressure to get a deal, which is elongating the shutdown. It's hurting Americans. It's hurting federal workers. It's going to hurt air travel as we get close to Thanksgiving. Brian, I think there's a good chance that we could be closed, really close, up to Thanksgiving. It appears there's no exit at the moment.
Is this all not just an academic exercise, considering even if the discharge petition works and the Senate votes in favor of it and the Epstein files are released, isn't it Pam Bondi's DOJ who has full control of what's in the Epstein files right now?
Hold on a second. I'll give you a step further than that, okay? Before we get to Pam Bondi, Trump could just veto it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
the Senate passes it, and Trump just vetoes it.
But if there's a veto-proof majority, like going 10 steps down the line, and first of all, the notion that there's going to be a veto-proof majority full of Republicans who are willing to buck this precedent, I know it feels otherworldly at this point, but let's just humor the notion. Do you have confidence that Pam Bondi's DOJ is going to give up any files that in any way implicate this president, even if we do have a veto-proof majority of Republicans who are willing to sign on to this thing?
Well, first we have to find the desk that the original list was on. Remember that?
That's right.
The list is on my desk. And then it's like, there's no list. It's like, well, what happened to the desk? Did she even have a desk? And so who knows? No, I mean, now Trump is asking Pam Bondi for $250 million. So
yeah,
we are way outside of not just norms. We're way outside of imagination, right? Like if I had said to you 6 months ago, okay, that Trump would be tearing down the East Wing while simultaneously having foreign governments building ballrooms and corporations while simultaneously asking the DOJ for $250 million, you would have said, I know things are going to be crazy, Jared, but that's not going to happen in the first 9 months of the administration.
Yeah. Can you talk about what your Republican colleagues are saying about all of this? I mean, I don't want to play the what if Obama, what if Biden did this, but we all know what would happen if Joe Biden decided to dip his hands in the U.S. Treasury to serve as a piggy bank for himself.
Oh,
and yet, they're all publicly silent right now. So notwithstanding the fact that they are effectively validating the precedent where a president from either party can just use the U.S. Treasury as a piggy bank, notwithstanding that point, can you just give some insight into what these people are saying? Are they okay with it? Are they not okay with it? I mean, clearly nobody's coming out and saying anything because, God forbid, you say an ill word of dear leader, but anything that you're hearing from, is there ever going to be a step too far for these Republicans?
So first of all, we don't have to go backwards. Let's go forwards. If a Democrat got elected in 2028 and tried to do half of the stuff Trump is doing, Republicans all of a sudden would find a conscience.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're against spending until they're in charge. Right? Yeah. So we don't have to go backwards, just go forwards. That they would be jumping out of their seat if a Democrat tried to do half of this stuff. I mean, they were getting upset that Hunter Biden was painting. And so forget all that, right? And so, no, is there a step too far? I mean, maybe when Trump starts, floating again that he's going to run in 2028, maybe that's a step too far. There were a number of Republicans that talked about how that wasn't in the Constitution.
For now. Yeah.
But other than that, Brian, no, there's no step too far. He got a plane from Qatar. Okay, that I thought would have been like, oh, that's a step too far. They're like, oh, he just needs a spare mechanical device to use. They're like tearing down the East Wing. It's like, well, he's a builder. He likes to build.
In your conversations with constituents, now that you've got plenty of time not to be in the House because Mike Johnson won't let the House come back into session because
Congress is optional. That's great.
Congress is optional. It's just a strong suggestion that you guys actually meet.
That's what our founders envisioned when they were like three separate branches of government. One of them will make part-time.
Yeah, that's right. In your conversations with folks, is anything seem to be resonating, even with folks? And I'm especially concerned about independents or Trump voters, but folks that you've spoken with, what seems to be the most resonant point? Because there's certainly a lot that's going on right now. We also may fall victim to the Steve Bannon model of flooding the zone with shit. And so instead of everything resonating, nothing resonates. But there is so much happening right now, especially on the corruption front, especially on the trade war and rising prices front, especially on the farmers getting fucked front. And so is there something that's especially resonant in your conversations with people?
So again, yes, I think the flooding the zone thing is working for them, right? Because it keeps Democrats in a state of constant outrage. And I try not to do that, by the way, even though I could be in a state of constant outrage all day long. I kind of try to pick the things.
Oh, just come on in. The water's warm.
Yeah, I got to pick the things to be outraged about, because the problem is if you're outraged about everything, then you're outraged about nothing. Right. Then there's no different lines of outrage. Right. There's no degrees of outrage.
You get outrage fatigue.
You get outrage fatigue, and everything's a 10, right? The sky is always falling. So some of the stuff I don't take the bait. I don't go for, right? Tearing down the east wing of the White House because it provides a nice visual, different. But look, I think when you talk to voters, there are really two things that are resonating. One is the prices of everything is more expensive, right? Trump said he would lower the costs, and that hasn't happened. Right? Tariffs have made everything more expensive. It's a tax on the American people. And whether they've figured out the policy of that, they see the numbers at the store and they know they're paying more money. That's issue number one. Issue number two is healthcare. Healthcare is issue number two. They know healthcare is too expensive now, and they know healthcare is about to go up in November. They know those two things. Those are the things that are breaking through. And yes, it's expensive to continue the subsidies. And so when we talk about, hey, it's $30 billion to continue the subsidies, people would say, look, America's $38 trillion in debt now, a lot of it added by Donald Trump, as we know. We don't have the money. And you would say, well, we would have had the money if we didn't just send $40 billion to Argentina, because Trump's friends with the leader there. Right. And so that stuff is breaking through when you can explain that to people. Like, well, we did have the money, and then Trump sent it to Argentina. This is the state of things, Brian. Like, we just had a deal in the Middle East, which I support. But think about this for a second. Trump was willing to sit down with Hamas and negotiate a solution, which I support. But he's not willing to sit down with Democrats and negotiate a solution on health care for the American people. That's how broken things are in Washington, D.C.
Do you anticipate that the Democrats are in any way going to capitulate on this issue? And by the way, I should just note for people watching right now, the whole shutdown is predicated on one major issue. That's Democrats are using what little leverage they have to make sure that ACA subsidies don't leave your health care doubling, tripling, or quadrupling as we head into 2026. That's it. So is there any sense among the Democratic caucus that there will be capitulation on this issue?
Well, look, I'm ready to open government. I've been ready to open government. I wanted to vote for a CR that extended the subsidies. So if they take the subsidies extension and put it in the CR, government will be reopened. I will vote for that. Okay. Yeah. And so there's a very easy solution out of it. In fact, this is something that has been discussed for 6 months. Everybody knew these things were going to expire, but Congress can't work unless there's an emergency, right? We don't do proactive, we do reactive. And now everyone's in their corners because, tough to negotiate with each other when, both sides say they're un-American, right? Tough to make a deal. And so right now, no one's talking to each other. No one wants to be the first to take a step. But Republicans control the House. They control the Senate. They control the executive. They control the Supreme Court. They have everything. Okay. And so this is their mess. They got to find a way out of it. They have our number. They know what we want to do. We want to lower the cost of healthcare for the American people. They know what it's going to cost. They've known for a while. They've decided to spend money on other things, add trillions of dollars to the deficit instead. But there's a really easy way out of it. And so we got to come back to Washington if they want to solve the problem. That's how you know the speaker doesn't really want to solve the problem. They like the situation they're in. They don't want to bring us back. In fact, they don't even want their own members back because they don't want their own members to talk to the press about maybe we should solve the problem on healthcare. And so, your guess is as good as mine, Brian, when we're going to come back, when we're going to solve this problem. It's hurting a lot of people. State of Virginia already declared a state of emergency to feed federal workers at food banks. Think about how disgusting that is, right? That federal workers miss one paycheck and they're at food banks.
Those are those bread lines that Republicans kept warning about if Democrats got into power, that Democrats being in power would usher in communism and food lines and bread lines. And now that's exactly what we have under Republican control. I got to ask, the excuse that Mike Johnson's putting forward is all the Democrats have to do is sign on to a clean CR and then come to the negotiating table. We hear you on the ACA stuff. We're gonna negotiate with you, but first sign on to the CR. First, surrender all your leverage, and then just trust us, guys. We're definitely good for it. So would you trust the people who got us into this mess in the first place? Who were the ones to eliminate these subsidies in the first place? The party that eliminated $1 trillion in healthcare funding and then gave $50 billion back for rural hospitals as some little like Band-Aid to plug the hole that they created. Are these the people that you're going to trust in terms of their promises that like, hey, all you got to do is give us a clean CR and then just come negotiate with us?
Well, first let me say, I don't think this is about leverage, right? This is about a CR that they put on the floor that didn't have the extensions in it. It's a policy debate for me, right? It didn't have the policy in it that I wanted, so I voted no. But they're in charge. They could keep government open. The fact that they don't have the votes means maybe they should talk to us and figure out what is the policy that's missing from that CR. This is also the people that said they wouldn't do CRs. They hated CRs. They voted against all the Democratic CRs, that they were going to fund the government with 12 appropriation bills. Still haven't done it. These are also the folks that closed the government on purpose and told the American people they were closing the government on purpose over Obamacare. These are also the people who have said they're going to fix health insurance. 9 years, we're still in the concept of the plan phase.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this, for me, of course, there's no trust between the parties. They haven't talked to us in 9 months since they took power. Remember, trifecta, mandate. They don't need to talk to us. How's their mandate working out for them? Okay. And so they know what we want. It's not a leverage debate. It's a policy debate. We want a lower cost for the American people. Where's their plan, Brian? They don't like our idea? Fine. What's their idea? Why don't they take their idea and add it to the CR for an up or down vote? Why don't they do that? You know why they're not? They got no ideas. Still in the drawing phase, still in the draft phase, version 12. Okay? They're not interested in lowering the cost of the American people. If they were, they would put forward their own plan to do it.
Is there no acknowledgement by these Republicans that ultimately Democrats are trying to help Republicans help themselves? Like, the reality is, if these subsidies are not extended, 24 million Americans are either going to lose their health insurance or see their premiums double, triple, or quadruple. And it's going to be largely in states, by the way, that Trump won in 2024. Those are the states that have seen the biggest enrollment increases in the ACA, including, down south. We have states like Texas, states like West Virginia, states like Tennessee, states like Florida. And so is there no acknowledgement by these Republicans about the electoral implications of not allowing the Democrats to help the Republicans?
Oh, no. There are many members that are concerned about those notices that go out on November 1st. In fact, I think if you put the extension subsidies on the floor, it'll pass. It'll pass. It'll be a bipartisan majority. That's why the speaker's not...
So what are we doing here? Is it just Mike Johnson?
But that's why the speaker's not putting it on the floor. He doesn't want it to pass. Okay, because if he did, it would pass. So he doesn't want it. And that's
But why not? Why not? What does Mike Johnson have to get out of this? Is he
I don't know. You're asking me to figure out what Mike Johnson's doing? I mean,
is it just that like Trump planted his flag here and so Mike Johnson's job is just to massage Trump's ego?
Hold on. Let me break down House and Senate strategy. Let me break down Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune's strategy. When Trump says jump, we ask how high. That's it. It's super simple. If Trump tomorrow came out and said, extend the subsidies, there'd be a vote in the House, there'd be a vote in the Senate, subsidies extended. We don't have to guess what Johnson and Thune are thinking. They're just saying to themselves, whatever Trump says. Right now, Trump's not engaged in the shutdown. Okay? And that's why we're kind of listless. We don't really know where we're going. They've been threatening to cut Democratic programs as kind of a threat. It's not working because we're watching them tear down the East Wing of the White House. We're a little past cutting programs. And so that's why this is going on. But look, as we get closer to Thanksgiving and the FAA isn't working, which they're in charge of, and TSA isn't working, which they're in charge of, okay? I mean, Americans are going to continue to ask their questions about why won't Republicans make a deal on health care? Why won't they propose something on health care? Where is their proposal? I mean, Johnson hasn't even put a single idea on the floor and make us vote on it. Make me vote on it, Mr. Speaker. Make me vote on your plan on lowering health care. Couldn't even figure that out. You want to know why? Trump hasn't sent him a plan. Johnson can't come up with his own plan.
Last question here. Should members of Congress get paid during shutdowns?
The answer is no. Now, constitutionally, we have to get paid. I have sent a letter to administration, and they are withholding my pay because people in my office are not getting paid. So if they're not getting paid, I'm not getting paid. If the American worker is not getting paid for the federal government, I'm not getting paid. If our military is not getting paid, I'm not getting paid. But to be quite honest, the pay thing isn't going to force us to have a deal. We got to be in Washington. If the American people are captive to this broken system, then so should Congress. Yeah. Congress should be captive as well. If the federal worker, the military, TSA, FBI, if they have to work without a pay, I should have to work too. Doing work in the district is work, but I should be in Washington doing real work, trying to solve this problem rather than being home. But this is all by design to make sure we don't have the Epstein vote and to extend the shutdown, quite frankly.
We'll leave it there. Congressman, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I'm joined now by Pod Save America's Tommy Vitor. Tommy, we have seen a ton of scandals kind of envelop this White House over the last couple of weeks, but today we have a brand new one that surged into the news. I want to throw to a clip right now.
Breaking news, President Trump just pardoned one of the most powerful people in the crypto world, Binance founder Changpeng Zhao, who pleaded guilty to money laundering in 2023. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison after reaching a deal with the Justice Department.
And it comes after a months-long lobbying campaign from Binance to try and secure this pardon for Zhao.
All right, Tommy, your reaction to just the latest iteration of what has been just egregious, nonstop corruption at the hands of this White House.
Yeah, so Trump pardoned the CEO of a company that was fined $3.4 billion by the Treasury Department. The Treasury Department said that Binance willfully failed to report financial transactions with Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Hamas.
The hat trick.
Seems bad. So why, you ask, would Trump pardon this guy? Why would he want to be seen as in bed with Binance? Well, because essentially they bribed him. Binance helped facilitate this $2 billion investment into Trump's crypto company that will earn the Trump family about $80 million a year. So that was the price of this bribe.
You know, we have seen so many instances of this. Do you think people care, like when they watch all of this stuff happen, when it just kind of layers one on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next? Do you think it breaks through, that it's having some impact on folks?
I think the biggest challenge we have is what you just said, which is that so many of these incidents don't break through.
But by design. Like this is the Bannon model of flooding the zone with shit.
They flood the zone. They do stuff all the time. Also, I think Trump benefits from just the cynicism that he pumps into the electorate all day long, right? Like a lot of people are like, you know what? They're all corrupt. All politicians are bad. They all do this thing. Though I do think when these little details will break through to people, like the fact that this company helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of a Trump crypto asset called a stable coin out of nowhere, making it one of the biggest stable coins in the world, it makes no sense. And then months later, this guy gets a pardon. It's like it could not be more blatant and brazen, the corruption.
I think the problem is that it is a little difficult to be explaining all of that. Yes. And unless you're a regular news consumer anyway, like if you're a regular news consumer and this story, this niche story is breaking through, you probably already have some political thoughts anyway. Like you probably already lie somewhere on the political spectrum, and it's going to either impact you greatly, as does everything else, or it's going to have no impact on you because you've decided that Trump is infallible. I guess our job right here is to make sure that all of these individual instances continue to break through, because they're all a small part of a larger whole, which is that Donald Trump swept into office amid these promises of law and order and stemming the corruption happening at the hands of the Biden crime family. Right. And yet now we're seeing daily instances of this administration just engaging in out and out corruption. I mean, taking a $400 million jet from Qatar and then retrofitting it to the tune of $1 billion on the backs of American taxpayers.
And then keeping it.
And then keeping it.
If he leaves.
Having Kristi Noem take $173 million worth of 2 Gulfstream jets.
She needs those. She needs to fly in comfort.
In fairness to Kristi Noem, she does need to fly in comfort. That cosplaying doesn't come at a low cost.
Yeah, you get to Party City all over Spirit Halloween all over the globe.
So there are just instance after instance after instance. We've seen these crypto dinners. We've seen Trump double his net worth. We've seen, of course, the ballroom, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I think that even though this may be a niche story, it is a small part of a much more obvious, larger whole, which is that this administration proudly and overtly traffics in corruption so that they can enrich themselves.
Yeah, and look, remember the most depressing part about this is the Supreme Court said it's totally fine. He's immune from any prosecution for anything to do with the pardon power. So that sucks. But I do think it's on us to tie this into a bigger political story, which is that Donald Trump came into office and now he's looking out for his billionaire friends and people that give him money, and you're getting screwed. The government is closed. What is he doing? He's pardoning a crypto billionaire who is funneling money into his pocket. He's not leading negotiations to reopen the government. He's not leading negotiations to make sure that your healthcare premiums don't double. He's not doing anything to deal with inflation. He's just doing this stupid tariff bullshit. So like that's the story that Democrats need to tell. It's not any one thing. It's like making it a broader narrative.
I think the most overt example is Donald Trump suing the federal government, suing himself basically, so that he can give himself $230 million
He deserves that money.
as damages, as punitive damages, as compensation for the fact that he was investigated and prosecuted by the federal government, where, by the way, all of it was completely well-founded, and they found evidence of the exact thing that they were investigating and prosecuting him for. You worked in the Obama administration, an administration rife with scandals like what color suit President Obama was wearing.
That was a bad day.
And the kind of
Seven almond scandal. Remember that one?
I actually don't remember that one. I was going to say the mustard.
Almonds or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there was the mustard. That was bad.
Yeah, Grey Poupon.
Grey
Poupon. Yeah, way too highbrow. Just
he hates ketchup, and he really scolds people that eat ketchup.
Yeah,
Obama does.
Well, I'm just curious, when you see a scandal like this one where Trump is just deciding to dip his fingers into the U.S. Treasury and pay himself $230 million this time, and I mean, recognizing the fact that the only people standing in the way of that payment going through or not are Todd Blanche, his own personal criminal defense attorney, and Pam Bondi, handpicked because when she was Florida Attorney General, she was deciding whether or not to investigate Trump University, opted not to after her PAC received a $25,000 payment from Donald Trump. So those are the two people in charge of deciding whether or not Donald Trump gets this payment. I'm curious, from your vantage, having worked in the Obama White House, what it would have been like had Obama decided to just pay himself from the U.S. Treasury.
I mean, what I think when I see these stories is, man, what a missed opportunity. You know what I mean? There's so many secrets I could have sold. There's so much access we could have peddled. You know, like the hosts of Fox News shows would have been like in front of the White House lighting themselves on fire if this had happened. It would be a scandal until the end of time. Like, this is, Brian, where I think the Democrats were really hurt by not controlling the media. You know, like Fox News, all these right-wing outlets, conservative radio, all of this entirely new press corps that the Pentagon has apparently handpicked since they kicked all the real reporters out. Like, those guys are
you suggesting that Tim Pool and Alex Jones and
InfoWars covering the Pentagon
is not going to be a legitimate press corps for the Pentagon?
It is crazy, and it shows the power of propaganda, because Fox News isn't going to cover this pardon today. They're not going to cover the lawsuit Donald Trump is waging against his own country. But if a Democrat did it, they would cover it nonstop. They would have roadblocks, specials about all the corruption happening, and here we are.
On the Pentagon thing, just as a quick aside, what does that do to the U.S.'s foreign policy if there is basically a press corps that no longer operates as news, but just straight up operates as propaganda? Tim Pool posted something where he basically said, if there's some story to look into, we'll of course look into it and defer to our viewers who want this, kind of investigative journalism, but we don't do investigative journalism, so chances are it's just going to be that we regurgitate whatever the White House feeds us.
Yeah, he was like, I just want the press releases. I basically don't care. I mean, look, the Pentagon press corps, the called resident Pentagon press corps, the people a lot of them have worked there for decades. And the reason everyone wants a strong Pentagon press corps is because the Pentagon budget is nearly $1 trillion. They decide whether we go to war. They can lie about intelligence, as we saw in Iraq. We are bombing boats off the coast of Venezuela, and there's real concern that we might be heading headlong into a regime change war with Venezuela. You want a strong Pentagon press corps in that building asking tough questions, like ferreting out corruption, figuring out what the hell is going on. And for fucking this goofy little douche with a beanie, Tim Pool, to suggest that like he's just going to sit there and be this pliant regurgitator of press releases. It's terrible. It's terrible for MAGA, by the way.
And that's what I want to dig into, because, if you're blocking access from all of these outlets, usually the Trump administration would be more deferential to figuring out how to get attention. Is this not counterintuitive in terms of the fact that they're blacking out all of these people who truly do? I mean, like, sure, Tim Pool and Alex Jones will have, some contingent of an audience, but there's a massive audience out there who still consumes, legacy media as a whole.
As a whole, yeah.
And so how does that not conflict with their strategy of just wanting attention from everybody?
Yeah, I really do think this makes Pete Hegseth look incredibly weak. I don't think he's done a single briefing or maybe one briefing for the press corps. Like his spokesman doesn't brief the press. They look scared. They look like they are worried about too much scrutiny. They look like they're not doing things that are above board. So I do think they will have a harder time getting their message out. The Pentagon press corps will not stop reporting on the things they are doing because that is their job. They just won't be able to do it from the Pentagon. And it's also not clear whether these reporters who had their badges stripped will be able to travel with Hegseth when he goes on trips or access other military facilities in other parts of the world. I mean, it could make it incredibly difficult for these people to do their jobs.
Is there a world where this backfires because now you've created such a hostile, acrimonious relationship with the people who are covering you, and it creates a bigger incentive structure for those people to say, hey, clearly you've got something to hide. Maybe I should dig harder and deeper.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, these are dogged reporters. They're going to do their jobs no matter what. Hopefully, this incentivizes them to go even harder at the Trump administration. But also, it may incentivize people inside the Pentagon who are career military to start speaking out more because they know this is wrong. And a lot of them will be greatly bothered by Hegseth just destroying their relationship with the press and traditional role of the media and the transparency that is expected of the Pentagon.
Well, that was the other part that I wanted to talk about, is the fact that people within the Pentagon who clearly know that this is wrong, is there more incentive for them then to say, okay, if there's not going to be some traditional relationship between the press and the Pentagon, I'll create that. I have an obligation, a duty to create that myself. And so there's, more likelihood that some information will be leaked because they know that, okay, these reporters are put in a tough spot. They're not going to get the same access that they were going to get before. And so maybe I meet them a little bit further halfway than we would have met otherwise.
It's very possible. I certainly hope so. I mean, I think that, look, the people who signed up for a career in the military did so, swearing an oath to the Constitution. They are not... They don't want a king. And so hopefully they will act accordingly. I will say, though, it comes with great risk because this is a super paranoid Department of Defense, our Department of War. They're super paranoid. They're constantly trying to ferret out leaks. They're constantly, pointing the finger and firing people based on suspected leaking without even having evidence, even though, by the way, Pete Hegseth's putting classified information to signal chats that included Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor of The Atlantic, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard someone do. But, if you get busted doing this stuff, you could get fired, you could go to jail. So, there's a lot of risk here.
And finally, on this national security front, can you talk about the legality or illegality of Trump's decision to just kind of, by fiat, blow all these ships up that are off the coast of Colombia or Venezuela?
There's no legal authorization. There is none. There has to be some sort of authorization by Congress. And the Trump administration is just asserting that the people in these boats are part of cartels or narco-terrorists, I think is what they're being called, and just blowing them up. And in the aftermath of these strikes, I think there have been 6 or 7 of them so far, the president of Colombia was like, hey, there was a Colombian citizen on one of those boats. I'm told that he is just a fisherman, that his boat was in distress, that he had put out a distress signal, and he was murdered anyway. And so, look, I think that what is happening is extrajudicial murder, period, paragraph. If you see someone smuggling drugs in open water, the thing you should do is interdict that boat, board it, arrest them, and then prosecute them. Yeah. The idea that you can just murder someone for suspected drug trafficking is absolutely insane. And I if Donald Trump leaves office and we have a new administration, people should go to jail for what is happening right now. And apparently it's all part of a strategy being executed by Marco Rubio to topple the current regime in Venezuela, to get rid of Maduro. So this is a regime change operation, the kind of thing that Donald Trump told us Republicans shouldn't have been doing for decades and was stupid and like that MAGA was against.
Yeah, and yet this is a recurring theme where Trump runs on some idea that he's not going to do something that happened in the past.
Yep.
He's going to be the law and order president. He's
Yep.
going to restore fiscal responsibility. All of it just complete bullshit.
Nonsense.
Just a pretext to be able to come into office and not just continue those policies, but continue them to the nth degree.
Yep.
With that said, for those who are watching right now, please help support independent progressive media. If you're not yet subscribed to Pod Save America's YouTube channel, I'm going to put that link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Help build up this ecosystem and get all of this kind of content into the algorithm. Tommy,
Gotta be
as
Tim
always,
Pool.
Gotta be Tim Pool.
Gotta be Tim Pool. That's so sad that we're losing.
It is really sad.
That hurts my heart.
We'll leave it there. Tommy, thanks for your time.
Thanks, buddy.
To listen to the audio version of this podcast, click the thumbnail right here on the screen and make sure to subscribe. And of course, to see more of my content, that subscribe button's on the screen as well.